Live. I'm back, actually back at West Performance, which is awesome. It was great to be out at the LSFest, which was cool. The thumbnail that I have up is a very cool, and if you see the thumbnail and have followed the channel at all, you would know immediately why I like that thing. It looks, the twin turbo setup that's on there looks exactly like the kind of stuff that I've run on the dyno. And what I hear all of the time on the dyno is, hey, and a lot of times it's not so much from the guys from West Tech, because we've been doing this a long time, but it's from other guys that might be coming in, customers or whatever. And they always say the same thing. They walk in and look at this conglomeration of turbos and hoses and tubing and intercooler replacements and all kinds of stuff on the dyno. They're like, yeah, what's that ever going to fit in? And that's exactly why I took a photo of this. So shout out to whoever's vehicle this is at LSFest. They were at the car show, because this is obviously show car worthy. But it shows that, hey, look, all of these crazy things where you just put the headers in there and attach the turbo and get it up out of the way and run it into an intercooler, all of that works, and it works just fine. And so that's why I took that photo. I'm back from LSFest, back at West Performance. I wanted to get back so I could do some dyno testing. Right now, I already have a motor up on the dyno. This one is a small block Chevy. I bought a couple of motors from West Tech a few weeks ago. This one is actually for a friend of mine that I've known since junior high, and he needs a motor for a cool old Chevy truck that he has. I went over to his place the other day, and we got his 6-cylinder running. It didn't need very much stuff, but we got the inline 6-cylinder running, but he wants to do upgrades on it. He wants to put a V8 in it, like most guys that want to have a 6-cylinder, they want to have a V8. So I told him I'd try to find him one, and this one, this is a good small block. It's an aluminum headed small block, late model, one-piece rear seal. So it's like it might even be an old, like an L98, originally an L98 Corvette motor or something. So I'm going to run it, and this thing doesn't look like it's run for quite a while. If we look at the sheet, a lot of times when we run these motors, and if we're not going to run them again immediately, what they'll do is they'll put a dyno tag on them, and they'll put it in a little sleeve and then attach it to the motor so that it shows, hey, the last time this thing ran, this is what it did. And then the notes have, and this is what it has in it. Unfortunately for this one, it says unknown cam and small block Chevy, and not real detailed notes, but it does have dyno results, so we know kind of what power it made. So I have it back up already. I've already made my an initial kind of what I call an exploratory pull. I mean, I don't even know what the timing is. All I did, it didn't have a distributor in it. All I did was I put a lock distributor in it. And when I put the distributor in, I just set the timing, I just set the damper with a timing indicated at 20. I dropped the distributor in, lined that up so that it was hitting number 1. And so it's going to be around 20 degrees, probably plus or minus 5. That's about as close as we can get. Sometimes we nail it right on, but I'm going to start with low timing just to see what's going to happen and make it safe. And as it turns out, it probably right now has not nearly enough timing, and all I did was make one partial pull. I kind of wanted to see how happy the carburetor was, and then now I'll go back in after the live feed and we'll hook a timing light up to it, and then I already know I'm going to need to make carburetor adjustments. Right now it's a small block Chevy, aluminum headed deal. It probably has a very mild cam in it, judging by the idle vacuum and stuff. It makes good torque down low. I put a 650 Ultra Holly on it, but it's not going to probably run that. It just happened to be in the cabinet. I actually wish I would have, now that I think about it, wish I would have used maybe tried an Edelbrock, so it would have been cool. But we'll have to go in and take jets out of that, because right now the air fuel's in the 10s, and even though it's not, I don't expect a huge change in power, it's just better not to have it be that rich. So we'll do that. We'll set the timing, and then it should work pretty well. I know that it makes me think that it has some kind of stock camshaft in it, because when I pulled the valve covers on it, it still has stock stamped steel rockers on it. In fact, one of them, oddly enough, all of the rest of them have the excuse me, The rest of them have the factory like pinch nuts on it holding the rockers down. One of them has a poly lock on it, which tells me that at some point this thing had been run and somebody had an issue with one of the poly locks, or when they were putting it back together, they lost one of them and said, okay, I'm just one of the pinch nuts, and they said, okay, I'm just gonna put a poly lock on it and it'll be fine. I like doing that on those stamped steel rockers anyway. If we're gonna be running, you know, a lot of runs and changing things where we would be taking the rockers on and off, changing cams and things like that, I like to use poly locks on those anyways, so that way they don't back out. And because nothing's worse than, you know, trying to do a whole bunch of testing and having, you know, some sort of random variable happen where an exhaust rocker is backing off or an intake rocker is backing off. And then you just have to, it's not a big deal, but you got to take the time to go and reset everything and make sure that's right, and then get it up to the same temperature and do all the backup runs and all that stuff. So it's just a time-consuming procedure. Whereas if you take those off and just, because this has rocker studs on it and has guide plates, so if you just put poly locks on it, then even though it has stamped steel rockers on it right now, which we will definitely replace with roller rockers, so it makes me think that it probably has some sort of fairly mild camshaft in it. Probably, it might even be a stock one. We'll have to see. But I'll go ahead and get the tuning done on that. I'm also excited about one of the other engines that I bought is a 350 LT1. So aluminum headed 94-ish kind of LT1. And I'm going to run that. And thanks, shout out to Bob for loaning me the intake manifold that I've had for a long time now. I will get it back to you whenever you want it. I could bring it by on my way. But I'm going to run that LT1. I had to order a water pump for it because this motor did not have a water pump on it. It has the front cover and the OptiSpark on it, which we're not going to use. But we'll run it carbureted with a distributor. And then I have, we'll do a camshaft on it. And I'll also I have a set of ported heads for it. So we'll do that. We'll do ported heads, a cam. I have that factory intake manifold. I also have another LT1 intake manifold that I've hole sawed a hole in so that we can run it with the distributor so we don't have to run the OptiSpark. It might be that the OptiSpark is fine, but we don't have a way to program it. So I'll run it with an MSD distributor, probably in the hole sawed one. And we might compare that to the dual plane that I have, but so we should be able to run that with a cam and ported heads and stuff. So, but after we're done, if anybody's interested in that motor and wants an LT1, let me know. What I kind of want to do with it is make it into a 302. So I need to go to the wrecking yard and get the L99 crank and rods. And then if I do that, then I can, you know, make it into a 302. But what people will see, as cool as that will be, they will like that. But as cool as that is, what it's going to do is make less power than the 350 because that's what they do. But I do want to put a camshaft in it. Maybe I'll reach out to Jim again at TPIS because he's a good guy and they've done a ton of stuff. Obviously, they've done more of that than anybody that I know. So we'll reach out to him. I'm going to see if we have a cam laying around for the LT1. It's kind of specific. We haven't done a lot of LT1 testing that I can remember at West Tech, so it might be a little harder to come by, but we'll see. I'll get one, you know, whatever we got to do. So cam, ported heads, and intake manifold. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. That will become available. And then I also have the V6. I got on the V6, the 4.3 liter. I got the carburetor. Shout out to the guys at Holly and the distributor. So we'll be able to run that. The two things that I'm missing, I'm waiting to hear back from the guys at Comp Cams about a camshaft for that and springs. So we want to run a cam and springs, and probably we'll put some kind of rocker on it, I'm sure too. But we have the smoky intake manifold, and then obviously that thing is going to get, I have used Elgin cams a lot, and I like their stuff. They do a good job. But on the 4.3 liter, we obviously want to put the M90 supercharger on it, so that will be kind of cool. So that's what we have scheduled right now. I brought the V12. You can see it's, you can look, if you look in the back, it's no longer in the back of the truck. I brought it back to West Tech. I took it out of the truck so that I'm not driving around indefinitely with the V12. Obviously draws a lot of attention. We're going to take that and ship it back to Brian Tooley Racing where we could do some testing with it. So I'm excited about that. I want to see what's going on there. So right now, just basically lots of testing going on. The LSFest was very cool. It was great. I stayed with Chad while I was there, and it was great to see. It's always good to hang out with Chad. We didn't get to spend as much time together as I wanted, because obviously he was working all day, and I was talking to people and talking about the V12 stuff, cruising around. I did get to spend some time away from the truck and the V12, cruising around on the GoPed, so I got to look at all the things, and there's lots of cool stuff there. I got to watch some drag racing. I've been watching some videos of the Volvo, just, you know, riding the tires high, riding the front tires high, down a lot of the track. That's very, very cool stuff. So as far as I'm concerned, LSFest was awesome. It was definitely a worthwhile deal. It's hard for me to sit there, and it was great to talk to everybody, and that was very, very cool. So I got to see a lot of guys that are on the live feed, and got to see it, and I met a lot of people that were fans of the show, which is awesome. And some of them like rabid fans. It was very interesting. But it's always cool to get, and especially a lot of young guys that come up and say, "Hey, dude, I've been watching your stuff, and you know, built my first motor," and that's always great to hear, because it's nice to know that. I mean, I love doing the testing, and I love seeing the dyno results, but it's also nice to know that other people are getting stuff out of that, and that, you know, people that I don't ever hear about or anything, that they're getting stuff out of it, and that they're utilizing it to pick the right kinds of camshafts, you know, the best cam, you know, what cylinder heads you use and intake manifolds. And it was interesting. I saw something today. One of the guys came over and said, "Have you ever seen this?" And he showed me what was going on. And actually the back of this was a fast manifold. And he goes, "I took your advice, and we took off the, you know, short runner sniper kind of style manifold, the fabricated sheet metal ones." And he said, "I put on a fast," because they're only running this thing to 6,800. So I said, "Oh, this is perfect for that." This was an LS, and I didn't know at the time that it's an LS3 based motor. And the gentleman that had built the motor, that I've been talking to for a long time, actually had told me that, and I just kind of forgot about it. But because I normally don't recommend a fast on the cathedral port stuff, because the factory LS3 works really, really good. It's hard to get better power, but so I thought it was a cathedral, but I saw something that I'd never seen before, and we were standing by the motor, and he goes, "Watch this," and he was revving the motor up, and in the back of the fast manifold, it was actually like moving in and out. There was distortion of the manifold. And he goes, "Well, how much boost can you run on these things?" He goes, "I'm running 12 pounds. I'm like, "Dude, we've run 30 on those things." And the guys at Fasts have assured me that they've pressure tested them to way more than that. Now, a pressure test, like especially a static pressure test, is not the same as a dynamic thing, especially in this case when the guy's running at the track and running it like on a two-step. I said, "Do you guys have data logging?" He goes, "Yeah, we do." I said, "Well, is the data logging showing you that you're getting, you know, big spikes in pressure, and then also equally big spikes, lower spikes in vacuum?" He goes, "Yeah, that's what's happening, obviously, in the two-step." I said, "Well, what you're doing basically is, this isn't like just a boost pressure problem." I said, "This is a cycling problem. So it's wanting to go, you know, pressure and then vacuum, pressure then vacuum." And I hadn't ever seen one move around like this. So maybe there's something going on. Maybe that area is thin. Like I said, because we don't normally two-step it on the engine dyno, so we wouldn't. And I don't ever remember looking at the back of one like that. But so I'm curious to see. He said, "Yeah, I don't want to go out and run it again, because we don't want it to blow out, or, you know, we don't want to hurt the motor." I said, "Well, you're not going to hurt the motor, so you don't have to worry about that." And I said, "And if it blows out," I said, "the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel a drop in power." I said, "Then you should get out of it, because the only thing that's going to happen is that." The only thing that could happen if you stayed in it and you have a hole in the manifold, the turbos are going to speed up, and you could hurt turbos. You could overspeed the turbos, because they're like, "Okay, this guy said he wants 12 pounds, so let's get together and give him 12 pounds no matter what happens, even though we're blowing a bunch of the excess airflow out." That kind of thing can happen at higher altitudes too, where you overspeed the blower, or the turbo rather, because it's boost regulated. So it says, "Okay, I want 15 pounds, and now I want 15 pounds at 10,000 feet. It's harder to do that up there. And so the poor little turbos have to you got to spin the snot out of them, and they'll keep spinning until they don't spin anymore, until they hurt something. They hurt a bearing or a wheel. A lot of times what happens is the wheel will hit the inside of the housing, and that's kind of a bad deal. So I was very excited to be at LSFest, and that was awesome, and great to see everybody and get to spend time, meet all kinds of new people. That was cool. But I also love coming back and seeing the guys at West Tech. Got to see Troy today, got to see Eric today, and already having a motor on the dyno and running it already. It's already alive, and which is good. So I get to do dyno testing. I'm excited about the LT1. I won't be able to run the V6 this time because I don't have the thing that's missing for what I would want to do, even if I just ran it stock. I don't have headers for it right now, so I got to get headers. Tried to catch the limo. Yeah, the limo was cool. I like that, and the limo was awesome with the one that I'm showing the twin turbo setup for, but also the hearse that was there is obviously seriously fast, and there were some really cool, and I like early 240Zs there. There was an unlimited amount of just coolness there, because everybody wants to be individualized, and they pick something that's really cool. They try to get something that's nobody's ever done, and that's the way that it should be. Lots of guys pick Fox Mustangs or SN95s, or Camaros or Corvettes, or C10s or whatever, things that we would consider to be more normal, I guess, for the LS stuff. But I like the different stuff too. It's all good. But I'm very, very excited about getting up on the dyno. And now that I have a running motor, and I'm at the point where we're doing some tuning, so that will be good. That's the point where I like to get to. And honestly, once I might have 3 or 4 runs playing with timing, and maybe 3 or 4 with jetting, and then that thing's really done, because I'm not doing a bunch of stuff. I had to order the water pump from AutoZone, so shout out to AutoZone. I had to order that, and they'll have it there tomorrow, and so I can go get that, and hopefully the LT1 will be on the dyno, kind of ready to go, and we can run that. I could weld up some plates, and we could run a Mazir external electric water pump, but it would take a lot of doing. It's a lot easier just to hook the water pump up. I don't in looking at the drive, the cam drive, essentially the little spline shaft that drives the water pump, man, it seems like that thing is small. I've been watching The Sixth Sense. It's good. Get in the zone. That's right. AutoZone. I'll have to tag AutoZone in the video. If it goes well with the small block and the LT1, and the other thing I did today was clean the LT1 off, because it has been sitting for I'm sure at least 1 decade. And it might be multiple. So it really just had a lot of dust on it. I thought it was all greasy and everything, but it wasn't. But so it was an easy cleanup. So it actually looks good now. And I hope that it starts up and runs like the small block did. And the small block probably hasn't been run in, again, I'm sure 8 or 10 years. It's been sitting there. But what I did was the same thing that I do on even on a fresh build. What I do is we just take all the plugs out and spin it with you can spin it with a drill or spin it with a dyno, because this thing had already been run before. I just spun it with a dyno, and the oil pump catches it, and away you go. And this thing has good oil pressure. It had like 75 pounds of oil pressure, which is good. So I'm excited about that, and we're gonna make some changes to it, make it we'll get the power up. I don't know where it's going to end up. I'm guessing low 300s probably. And then if I remember, that's about where the old dyno sheet was. It's low 300s, and then I think it made 400 foot-pounds of torque, which is really good. So whatever that cam is, it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it is pretty good. So let's see what you guys got going on. I'm gonna scroll back here. Scroll it. Oh, look at that. Rags, 1 Liter Mafia. Did you hear? I'm a 1 Liter Mafia member. I got a Geo Metro. In fact, when I went to AutoZone, shout out to AutoZone again. When I went to AutoZone to order the water pump for the LT1, I got a bunch of stuff because I'm going to do videos on the Metro, because it needs some things. It might not need plugs, but I got new plugs anyway. It definitely needs a cap. It definitely needs a rotor. It definitely needs a battery. And then I think in looking at it, it's making some noises. So something thought it was a clutch. It's definitely going to need a clutch. So I'll change the clutch and flywheel on it. We'll probably put turbo stuff on it, the Sprint turbo stuff, the G10T stuff. We'll probably put that on there. But right now, I know that the alternator and water pump belt is rubbing on the front cover. And it sounds to me like, it almost sounds like the cam belt is also rubbing. So I'll have to take a look and see why maybe the front cover, the front plastic cover, the cam cover is like come askew or something. Maybe it's pushed out or something. So that'll be good. The whole thing needs to be washed and sterilized and sanitized. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm excited about doing the videos on that. And then if I can get and the Honda or the Holly guys are supposed to send me, I haven't seen it yet, but they were supposed to send me the 1-barrel EFI for the 300 Ford, and we'll run that on the Metro also. But we'll run the fuel injection that's on there right now, and we'll do some modifications. But I'm going to put the AMR supercharger on there, so that will be good. Let's see. Scrolling. Looks like I got some questions asked. I looked right at you sitting on the tailgate with the engine behind. Didn't even realize it was you. Yep. LS has an incredible following for the engine that's only been made 15 years. 2000s was an incredible time for hot rodders. Well, they made LS's in 2000, right? 99 and 2000, the truck motors. Still waiting on my rotating assembly for the van. Still no delivery date. Waiting since the end of January. Have you seen performance parts on back order for a long time? That seems like a long time. I don't know that I would wait that long. Tim, what's going on? Done with now, but someone sold a monster motor. I know, you should have seen the guys at AutoZone, the kids that were working behind the counter. And to their credit, obviously, at more than at least one of them was raised correctly. And one of the guys was looking out the window, and he's like, I could see him counting the things. And he goes, "What is that?" I said, "Well, it's an LS." I said, "But it's a V12." He goes, "Yeah, I was counting the exhaust tubes on it." I said, "Yeah, it's one that we custom made that a guy did." And so one of the other guys said, "Would you mind if I went out there and looked at it?" I said, "No, dude, please go ahead. That's awesome." Let's see. I'm scrolling back. Here we go. Gas Monkey has a V12 Lamborghini motor. I've never done anything with one of those. I've ridden in a Lamborghini Countach, which was very cool. Have you seen the something hour for Apex? I don't know what that is. Let's see. I'm going to move this over a little bit. The dev hour for Apex? I haven't seen that, so I don't know what that is. Alan DZ was Zora. Have you used Elgin cams? Yes, I have. What about the big block Chevy Big Bang? Yep, that needs to happen. Less displacement. Yes. Is this thumbnail picture of the Lincoln limo? Yeah, it is. I think so. I think that's what it was. I just like that the turbos are sticking out. It's very, very Mad Max. It's very, very super Richie. How much tequila did you drink with Chad? We didn't have any, actually. We didn't even have time to like go out and get a drink. Finally got the exhaust done on the Fox body, or iTurbo Sentra. Been watching some of your older videos. Plenty of gold nuggets of information. That's cool. Very cool. Shout out to Otto. Otto is the builder of the LS limo. That's very cool. Way to go, Otto. I'm not excited to see the update on the LS V12. I thought about building one of those, but didn't know. Let's see. I'm gonna move this over a little bit. So I'm having trouble reading this stuff. Get this out of the way here. There we go. Now we'll be. Now we're cooking with gas here. Yeah, so that is cool. There was obviously no shortage of turbo LS motors and blower LSs and all kinds of stuff. I don't know who'd have build the crank and cam. Not sure what the cost of the V12 crank is. This one had a billet crank, but the cams were welded together. He has welded cranks together, but the guys, the V12 LS guys in Australia have cranks available. That's not inexpensive though. Tried to catch the limo, wasn't fast enough. Or she's playing "I'm Coming Home" song. That's right. It's always eastbound and down. Variable plenum. I think those new laser welders might be the best way to TIG weld the two LS3 blocks together. He's really, really good at welding. So the block is probably the easiest thing, I think, for him. Get in the zone. Off subject, but would be interested in looking at my tune. I have an OBS C1500 Chevy truck with a small block Chevy Dart block twin turbo, an XL DFI. It's an older build, but runs pretty decent. I've never even looked at a DFI fuel injection. I've never tried to run one, and I'm not really a tuner, so I have zero experience with that setup. I've only run Holly and fast stuff. Think of building a Z06. Any input on which ones are good or bad? Are you wanting to do which Z06? Are you doing an LS? An LS7 based one, or are you doing the earlier Cathedral Port one? Steve Morris did my street tune, but now I have to see how much I can get out of it with 93. Steve Morris is a pretty sharp guy. Arizona Springs, 20% off orders over $100 for AutoZone. Nice. Any inspiration for the 240? Oh yeah, I saw 4 or 5 of them that I wish my 240 would look like. The Nova bumper dragger, $9.99. Anyone else buffering? It shows that I have pretty good coverage right now. Rags, yeah, the white Metro is the one that I got. It's rough. You buy a Z06. Did you figure out what was wrong with your truck? No, actually, but I did do more stuff to it today. What I did was I looked up a video. First, I took a couple of spare alternators that I have that we've used when I've done testing on the engine dyno because I needed a whole serpentine system. Took the alternators to AutoZone to see if they could check them for me, and they couldn't because they didn't have the right mounts to mount the alternator so they could spin it. So I just looked up on YouTube to see if the diodes were bad in this. And so I learned how to check those. So check the ones that I have. One of them is good, one of them is bad. I checked the one on the truck after disconnecting it. It has a lower initial reading, but it's not showing any backfeeding though. So I don't know exactly what that means. It sounds to me like the alternator's making noise. So I'm thinking about swapping it with one of the ones that I have here. What I'm going to do tonight is when I get to Mark's place and spend the night, I'm going to disconnect the alternator and then connect it again in the morning and see if that's the source. If that's the source, then we'll will make an adjustment to think about getting a new. In fact, I met somebody who had, let's see. I met somebody who said that they would supply me an alternator, so it was very cool. Let's see. Oh, this sounds good. Yeah, and then the AMR 500 I'm really excited about. Wouldn't a V16 would have been easy? Yeah, a couple of people have mentioned that. Was GM North Star motor anything special? I don't know what you mean by anything special. You could see what the power output, what the rated power output and everything is. When you shock the parts guy into talking finally. Yeah. 4.3 with an M90. I know, I'm very, very excited about that. How many cubic, T wants to know how many cubic inches the V12 is. This one is 519 inches. It's, because this is what he had, and that's why he did this one originally, is he had a couple of original 5.7 LS1 motors. So the blocks are LS1 that he welded together. The crank is a standard 3622 stroke. And he used the stock LS1 rods and pistons. And it even has the early 853 LS1 heads that are ported. You see the VW Bug with an LS up front. I did. That was one of my favorite cars there too. That thing was awesome. Zora Arcus Duntov. Is that what the DZ is for? Is that what you're saying? Is that your question? The other day, YouTube recommended an unboxing of a Super Richie cam. Whose video was it? Richard, I have an import, 11-to-1 compression, no camshaft swap, options available. Will regrind of the cams help lower the dynamic pressure for supercharging. We're using 93 fuel additive for octane booster. Yeah, I'm curious if you want to change the dynamic compression. Why did you have such high static and you want to run boost on it? But if you can certainly regrind the factory cams. They usually have to do a small base circle when they do that, so you're gonna have to change something. I don't know if it has push rods or if it's an overhead cam motor. You're gonna have to change. Sometimes you could do it with shims under the buckets. I don't know which one this one has. You can do lash cap sometimes, but you're gonna have to adjust for the change in base circle. If Steve Morris did it, don't mess with it. A tune, if it's set to run on 87, just run 87. Any tuners in Florida they'd recommend? I really don't know a lot of tuners, and I've only ever been to Florida. I've been to Florida a couple of times, but I've never done anything with like cars out there. Check the grounds. I did all that. We checked. In fact, what I did today when I was ohming out the alternators, I went through and checked to make sure that running from the battery to each one of the grounds that I could reach, that they were all reading the same number. And I went through and took the grounds off, ground them, with I had my little Wizzy wheel, and so that they were bare metal and stuff. And that we did all that, but that didn't really change anything. Howard Tanner Redline Motorsports is a good tune in Florida. Drain all capacitors to clear the system. How did things go with the LSV12? It was fantastic. It was just on display. We haven't run it yet, but on display it was fantastic. Everyone loved it. If you do the 4.3 with an M90, measure the intake height versus stock. Needs to fit in my Astrovan. I don't have a stock Astrovan intake manifold. This motor didn't have an intake manifold on it when I got it. 9-line garage. Any new products and or cool news from any of the other standalone ECU companies? Anybody use Haltech's latest Rebel for the LSs? I don't know what Brian Tooley has. They use the Haltech, but I don't know if it's a Rebel or not. Double over cam, hydraulic buckets. Yeah, what we did when Tom and I did the Bonneville project for Suzuki, we had the cams reground, and so that we had to shim the buckets. And what I did was I just used a hole punch, and then I went and got shim material of various thicknesses, and I just basically stamped them out. I was thinking that I could get that I could use feeler gauge material and just go buy a few cheap feeler gauges. But it turns out we found the material that we needed. Measure from the block, normal reference point. Not a question, but today I saw a shaved truck intake manifold. The guy removed every plastic rib and hole. Yeah. It looked good. You liked it? You like the shaved one? I've seen guys shave them and then even hydro dip them after they do that. They look a lot better than a factory truck one does. Getaway, what's going on? I don't want to recommend a person outside of here, but Los Vasquez is a remote Holly tuner out of Florida. Remote tune while driving with your laptop. Okay, cool. You can recommend whoever you want. If you've got an answer, man, that's what we want. We want the answer. Brian Crowder does, yep, regrinds. The guys in Schneider does regrinds, and Webb does regrinds for lots of stuff. You can pull the battery cable off to check the alternator to see if it's bad. The alternator's charging. We know the alternator's charging because I have a gauge that tells me that the alternator's charging. What I'm trying to determine is if the alternator is backfeeding while the car is shut off. Richard sunburn. Yeah, I did get sun while I was there. I haven't been out in the sun today, really. No, not really. Mostly West Tech stuff into the stores. I was going to go over the wrecking yard today because the V6 needs a couple of valve covers, so I need to go get a couple of Vortec valve covers, which would be cool. I like those. They're like composite ones. I know when I was using the truck to jump the Metro that I was getting lots of sparky. Talking about grounds, there's a text service bulletin. Yeah, I did that already. We've already made all the grounds perfect, with the possible exception of the one back on the cylinder head. Building an LS Miata. Yeah, we saw a few of those. Have a 5.3 LC9. That's a good one. LS1 intake. What cam would you recommend for 400 to 450? Is it 400 to 450 flywheel horsepower? Because then one of the cams that I have, well, either one of them will do. One of them would do like 425. The other one would probably do, closer to 450. One is located on the frame under the driver's seat. Yeah, we did that one. But out of the harness to the frame next to the bracket, and the other is in the grill area. Yeah, we did the front one and we did the one under the seat. Kevin at KSR, Jeremy at Faster Proms. Yeah, Jeremy I've heard of, and I've talked to him. Flywheel, yeah. Yeah, I have the low buck truck cam. And on an LC9, that would do about 425. And then I have the one step up from that, and that probably would do close to 450. And those are still on sale right now. I just changed the oil in the truck because it was needing it. The one thing I'm worried about on the alternator, not worried, but the one thing is I know that the reading that I'm getting with the alternator that's on the truck is different than the reading that I'm getting with the one good alternator that I have back here. Because one of the diodes is definitely bad on one of them. It's 9 p.m. in Wisconsin. I need a snack. Well, then you got to get pizza, right? Custom hood. I'm planning a custom hood for the square body. Should I go shaker style hood or 4-inch clear epoxy cal hood? You can do clear. I like the fact that one of the guys at LSFest had a Trans Am, you know, a mid to late 70s Trans Am, and had an LS with a truck manifold on him. I'm assuming it was either a 6-liter or 4853 kind of thing. But he made standoffs for the shaker hood, so the shaker hood stayed in position. That's the kind of little stuff that I like. Todd was, I'm up at the farm, so no new updates on my struggle with the machine shop. Long story short, have you or anyone you know of tested more lift, less rocker ratio versus less lift and more rock? Are you wanting to know if you get the lift from a rocker instead of the cam? Are you trying to figure out one of those things? It's really esoteric. The rocker, doing it with the rocker and not with the cam lift, changes the average cam lift, so it can change things. But you should never be looking at that's like laser focused at next to nothing, and you get big gains from doing other things. You should put the turbo sprint in the back and have a twin engine. There you go. I did get some sun. Wisconsin cheese is given. I like Wisconsin. I like the racetrack there. I tried checking various spots on the power feed for the battery, and I didn't see any down to the block, down to that fuse block. And then obviously when you start the truck, with the battery just sitting there, the voltage is like 12.7 with the car off, and then when you start it, it's 14.5 or something. So the alternator's doing its part, at least the charging part of it. Now it might also be discharging, but hopefully we'll find that out tonight. I'm hoping that I didn't pinch the harness somewhere when I was doing the intake swap for the blower. Can you do a 363 stroker from a 5.3? Yeah, you can do a 383, so a 363 wouldn't be a problem. There was a twin engine Sprint in Quebec a few years ago. I saw that there was the twin engine Suzuki that they ran at Pikes Peak was really cool. 1207, 12.7 volts is what I was measuring. Let's see. I've had an alternator try to run my motor in one of the vehicles once. Just found a PayPal alternative. I haven't really even looked into that yet. You can put a large amp diode between the alternator wire and the alternator. Do you mean between the battery? The power lead that's coming off the battery to the alternator? I mean, I don't want to do an external thing, even though we've already put another power wire on it. But, I mean, it should work. And it obviously worked for a long time until whatever's going on now. The other thing I want to do is I want to figure out what's going on with the knock sensors, because I'd like this thing to have the timing that it's supposed to have. That way we get snappy snappy throttle response and better fuel mileage. The fuel mileage thing would be good. I want it to be right so that I can run the M90 on it again, and also so that I can do a test. I have an electric water pump and a electric fan set up for it. Alternator, it would stop drawing power when it's off. Yeah, it's not drawing power. What happens when the diode's bad on it, that it will drain the battery. Haven't done anything cool lately, just stocking up inventory. I'm about to start building all kinds of different things on the channel. Cool. Pre-runner 71 Jeep. One of the guys came by with a Jeep that had an LS swap in it, and I saw a few of those there. They were cool. He took pictures of the V12 LS yesterday. Very cool. Get knock sensors from GM. The aftermarket ones are garbage. Somewhere I had a whole, like, I want to say coffee can, but I don't drink coffee, and I don't know why I would have had one of those. But I had a whole bunch of factory sensors. Was the twin engine Isuzu? I thought it was a Suzuki. Is pretty famous for the one that ran at Pikes Peak. It was a Japanese driver. I have 2 new knock sensors out of my truck I'm not going to be using. Well, let me know, Danny. Could that be adding resistance? Could what be adding resistance? Vegas was awesome. I mean, not Vegas itself, because I didn't really go into Vegas. I just drove out to the Strip. I ordered a custom grind cam from BTR and made the mistake by giving a misprint information, so I got a cam spec for 1.8 rockers. It's Mass Motorsports black label heads, so it's built for it. Okay. Well, and if you bought an LS7 cam, it would come with spec for a 1.8 rocker. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work with a 1.7, because we ran an LS7 cam with 1.7 rockers, and it doesn't make quite as much power. That particular cam didn't with the 1.7s as it does with the 1.8s. Gonna start a new TikTok channel for building that LS2 when I get everything back together. Cool. Open is different than short or ground. The 360 appears to run decent. I'm going to do a turbo on it. Do some cosmetics. It's already on 35, so we'll see. Cool. Oh, Ralph, the sensor's bad? Yeah, I don't know. The thing has a lot of miles on it, so it wouldn't surprise me if the knock sensors are bad. I'm a little concerned about even being able to get them out, because that is a genuine concern. A lot of times there gets to be water in there and rust if those seals are bad, and then it's just, it's just like a rust bucket in there. I mean, I can have the knock sensors for my truck. I won't be using them. Yeah, let me know if you want to ship them out here or whatever. Let me know what it costs. So, Todd, when I get back, I'll call you and we'll figure something out. Richard, did you see the off-road trucks and white Beetle rolling over yesterday? I didn't yesterday. I didn't see that. I didn't see any of the off-road truck stuff, and I didn't get to see any. I didn't go over and see any of the road course stuff, which I would have liked. Although there were a lot of good guys on the autocross stuff was right in front of me, so I got to watch a lot of that, and there were a lot of really good guys there. I'll have to email for the address. Yeah, Danny, just let me know. I'll send me the email, and then send me an email, and then I'll send you an address. You just send them to West Tech. I just think OEM everything was overpriced scam, but in my old age, I have realized that there are lots of OEM things worth the money. one of the things that I did is, and this was at the insistence of Oscar Jackson, he said, if you're going to do Honda stuff, you should buy factory Honda stuff. And I did a lot of that, and it worked out pretty well, including a Honda Bond, which was expensive, but it worked good. Yeah, Todd, just let me know what your current condition is, what the motor is and stuff. Let me know how it's looking and what it needs to go back together. I have a cam for you. I looked to see if I had springs. The only springs I saw were the box that I thought that I had for you is they're actually LT springs. So you're gonna sell that Jeep? A 600 horsepower Jeep should be fun. Should be good stuff. So since I don't have the ability to put a pole up, right now the small block, the air fuel is like 10-3, 10-4 to 1. So if I change it 2 air fuel points, like put it in the mid 12s, let's say, how much power are we going to gain by 2 air fuel points? May go, let's see, your go-to sealer is the Yama Bond. I think it's probably, is the Yama Bond, I've used that on the DT125 that I had and the DT100. It seems like it's a little bit thicker maybe than the Honda stuff is. That's the most common in the alternator diode, open brush, clean, internally, possibly change. I don't want to buy another alternator until I know that this one is bad, because I already bought a new battery, and I did that for nothing because it didn't do anything. That's why I was trying to diagnose a lot of this stuff before I would make the change. It would have been nice if the and Napa couldn't either. Napa couldn't do an alternator test. Like, man, you guys are just useless. Ever used it on a gas engine? Yeah, at least if I disconnect the, I'm gonna have, when I go see Mark tonight, we'll take another pass at it. We'll re-ohm it and see what's going on. But I'm gonna disconnect it tonight, definitely, and then see what happens in the morning. And if it is doing that, if the alternator is discharging it, then obviously I would get a new one. Actually, first I would put on the good one that I have. The problem with the good one that I have is the plug, you know, there's another multi-wire plug that plugs into the alternator on the Silverado, or on probably on all the LS's. That plug, some of the plastic is broke, so I don't know how, I don't know if that plug would stay in place. That's what I'm worried about. But it would stay in place long enough to do a one-night test on it and see if that had cured it. And if it did cure it, then I would not be opposed to buying another one. It's a lot cheaper to rebuild an alternator. Do they have like rebuildable parts? I've done that before on a Honda. It was just, that one was just brushes, I think. It was just brushes or magnets or something that it wore out. Online alternator parts, okay. Are there any specialty tools for the alternator? One of the things I remember about the Honda when I did it, because I didn't even have the money to get an alternator, so, but I did have enough money to buy the $5 or $6 brushes or whatever that it took, because they were just spring-loaded bars or something, if I remember, that push down on it, and they wear out like brake pads. It's hard to find rebuild kits anymore. Oh, I do need a puller. Do I need a puller for the is that for the alternator pulley? I never used anything special. I saw that it looks like they have some of those torque bits, or the reverse torque bits. One more Cleveland question. 2V heads. What is the exhaust hump that people talk about? I don't have my heads off. Any other port mods you know of? It's a bolt on 30 over, putting a 671 on. I don't know. I don't know enough about Cleveland heads. I know what the thermactor bump looks like on a typical small block Ford, like on a 5-liter Ford. It's just it's a bump that's on the top of the port, and that's where the air is injected. And they're probably doing it so that when they introduce the air, that it grabs it correctly. That's probably what the bump is for. But when guys port it, they get rid of that though. So I would imagine that they do the same thing to Cleveland's. If anybody knows, feel free to chime in. I'm even thinking about trying my hand at and I probably will. I think I'm gonna do some porting on the V6, the 4.3 liter V6. Rags. It doesn't kill the battery. What happens is, if I park the car and overnight I go to start it, and if I hit the key, it won't start. If I open the hood and move the power wires around, then it'll start. But reluctantly. I haven't ever measured to see what the battery voltage is in the morning, so maybe I'll do that and see. What was his support number for? You can have a parts store pulley. Advanced usually has a puller. Okay. I'll send you a support phone number if you need a place. Remands them right around the corner. Okay. Oh, if I have any questions about rebuilding it? Okay. I'm sure that there's stuff online, right? It can't be that hard. I don't know what... I'm sure if I go online, it will tell me. I just don't know what things I'm going to be rebuilding, which if I'm just doing the things that wear out. Is your glove box light on? Let me check. No, it goes off when I close it. None of the other lights are on either. But even if that was the case, if I wiggled the wires, that shouldn't cure it. At least I think it wouldn't. 2 more minutes. I gotta get back to dyno testing. I'm so excited. I love dyno testing. Get those questions in. Quick, quick, quick. For moving wires, it's terminals or a wire issue. It's not a terminal issue because the battery's brand new. I even put, I took and I have a little rotary sander, sanded all the connections off. I mean, it could be the whole wire assembly itself. Like if you cut it open, maybe it's full of junk. Maybe that's stopping it from. But see, it would do that all the time though. And see, we were thinking that the lead wire going down to that block was bad, and that's why we put a second one in. But that didn't cure it, so that kind of tells me that that's not it. Harness fuse box, it sounds like. So the fuse box that's up under the hood. Looking for an early Olds turbo setup for my 63 F85. Man, are those still out there? Had a starter post brake, but stayed in. If you pulled it, it wouldn't start. Yeah, we've been over the stuff on the, because we were thinking that maybe it was a bad cell in the battery too. That when I'm moving it around, the cell is connecting, but we replaced the battery and it's still doing exactly the same thing. Under the hood from the computer to the fuse box. I can check that wire and see. F85. I like those. Those are cool. Cool. I'm so glad I brought the GoPed when I went out there. That was great cruising around. I got a lot of comments on the GoPed. They're like, dude, that's like an OG one. I said, yes. It's probably from the 90s. I got a battery repair charger for free. Thought they were a gimmick, but what is that? Mine will be up for sale too. My battery charger died too. I was gonna use it to jumpstart the Metro, but I plugged it in and it's not working at all. It's not even turning on. I tried shaking it and kicking it, but that didn't do anything. You'd think that would fix it, right? So I kind of want to take that apart and see if there's a problem with the, I don't know, maybe the soldering for the power wire or something. I think it was hanging out with the alternator from the truck. It pulses to descale the battery. Okay. What happens to all the material that comes off when you descale it? I'm curious. My girlfriend said you look healthier with color. Did I look bad before? Starting to get dark. What time is it? Is it late? Yeah, two of them that wouldn't charge, but now they do. That's good. Maybe I should try that on the battery that's, I'm gonna take the battery that's in there's a battery right now that's in the Metro, and I was gonna try to take it out and just charge it and see if it would hold the charge, but I just bought another one. Got the good guy deal, and on that note, it is time to go. Thank you guys. It's good to be talking. I'm glad to be back. I'm gonna go on and head into the dyno, make some noise, but I'll see you guys all tomorrow. There.